Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. I heartily welcome all of you to this webinar, the second day of the webinar, which is being conducted by the Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre of UK. So we had the privilege of listening to three monks on three different themes yesterday. And as all of you know, we celebrated the 125th anniversary of the foundation of Ramakrishna mission. So to commemorate that event, we decided to invite 9 Swamis who are excellent speakers representing all the different continents. Since ours is a global organization and being a non-sectarian, non-political, spiritual organization, which though we are conducting humanitarian activities inspired by the ideals of renunciation and service, are trying to see the living God in them. Yet we serve everybody without any distinction of caste, creed, religion, or race. So many of the centers outside of India, of course, compared to the centers in India which do this humanitarian service, many of the centers outside may not be so active in the social service field. Though yesterday we saw how South Africa is doing wonderful work. And moreover, this is the 125th anniversary of the foundation of the mission. Though MUT and mission are separate legal entities, legal and financially separate, they are closely interrelated. And most of the Western centers are MUT centers, but still we consider ourselves as part of the Ramakrishna movement in general. So the main function in the Western centers about which we are going to hear today, not only Western, other than outside India is a better word. Now there's no East or West, it's all global society. Yeah. So I would prefer to call outside India. So all the different continents, South America will be represented by Swami Atmajnananda, who has gone there recently. But of course, he has traveled there before, isn't it? You have traveled there before.
No, Swami, no. I came here for the first time.
First time. Okay. Anyway, you must have learned enough about South America and our centers and our movement. So we decided to hear from you. Yesterday, as I told you, the Swami spoke on South Africa. Today, we have North America and South America, which will cover many centers. So without spending much time, we would like to hear to you. I just would like to mention that Ramakrishna Vedanta Center will be completing 75 years next year. So I think we decided to hold this seminar, being a global organization, Ramakrishna movement, to celebrate its 125th anniversary in different parts of the world, and how the movement is unfolding itself. We wanted to know from the monks who are serving in those countries, different ethnicities, different nationalities, different cultures. It's a very difficult job to adjust, especially when you change from one center to another. So it's a challenging. There are a lot of challenges and there are a lot of opportunities as well to spread the movement. And unlike the history of a movement, I prefer to call it a story, because story of the Ramakrishna movement, because history is about incidents, about the activities, external activities, and there's some kind of quantification of the activities, which we are not very keen. Our quality is more important, and it is an unfoldment of certain ideas which Sri Ramakrishna lived, and the ideas of Vedanta as lived by Sri Ramakrishna and as spread all over the world by Swami Vivekananda and his brother disciples, as also the other monks in that, who succeeded them. So our aim is to give a bird's eye view of how the movement, how this Ramakrishna movement, Ramakrishna mission unfolded in these continents to create a truly global movement with eternal and universal values, which were practiced and preached by its founders over the last 125 years. So now we all know how Swami Vivekananda, in fact, I was surprised to know that the first center of the Ramakrishna movement, may not be mission, was started in New York, even before Belur Math Association, 1897, 1st May 1897. In 1894, there was a center which Swami Vivekananda started in New York. So it's a it's more than 125 years that this movement has been spreading all over the world. And Swami Vivekananda, when he started the Vedanta movement in the West, after 125 years, we have to recollect his famous words. Maybe a year before his Mahasamadhi, he said, I have given them enough for 1500 years. I mean, not only the West, but the entire world. So we all know Swami Vivekananda taught in America, especially North America and Europe during his 2 visits to the West, and spending a total of 5 years in both Europe as well as America. He spent more time in America, of course. But 4 of his other disciples, it's you should note that Swami Shardananda to begin with, then Abhedananda, who lived for a very long time, Swami Turiyananda and Trigunatritananda came to the West for varying periods. So we know that. And the Vedanta Society of San Francisco was also established as early as in 1900. So now we will request Swami Atmajnananda, I'll just give a brief introduction as he has sent it. He is very humble. He has given very brief introduction. He has many qualities and other things, but I'll restrict to what he has sent. So his topic, of course, he'll be speaking on Ramakrishna movement in South America. So he joined the order at our Sharda Peeth Center, an educational institution, which is very near Belur Math, in 1988. Under most revered Smarnanandji Maharaj, who is the present president of our order, who was then the secretary of Sharda Peeth. So he graduated from Bangalore University, and after the training center, I was fortunate to be with him. We were together in the training center. He was posted to Ramakrishna Math at Bengaluru, and then to Ramakrishna Ashram Mysuru Center in 1988. After sannyasa, he took to
1998, Swami.
No, 88 you were posted to Mysuru.
No, 98.
Oh, sorry, yes. Here it is, there's a typo mistake. Anyway, 1998, yes. After sannyasa, he looked after he was taking care of the publication work there. And he was also the editor of a Kannada monthly known as Vivek Prabha for nearly 3 years. And then he was posted to Advaita Ashrama, Kolkata, for publication work and was the manager of Advaita Ashrama. He was then posted as the personal secretary of revered Swami Gautamananji in 2011. And he has traveled mostly with Swami Gautamanji Maharaj to US, UK, South Africa, and many centers in India with Swami Gautamanji. So he has a wide exposure, he knows so many things about the movement, has personal experience about all these centers. In 2016, he was made the Adhyaksha of Sri Ramakrishna Ashrama Mysuru, and in 2019, the secretary of Ramakrishna Mission Ashrama in Chandigarh. He is now posted as minister in charge of Rio de Janeiro Center in Brazil in 2021 and has taken charge of it from 1st January 2022. So now we would request, there are other centers in Brazil as well, and the Argentina, which was started even before Brazil. So I would now request Swami Atmajnananda to give us a bird's eye view of how the activities, the Ramakrishna movement unfolded in South America. Over to Swami Atmajnananda.
Pranams, my devoted pranams to Swami Sarvasthananji for giving a beautiful introduction and giving us the idea about today's topic. I'm really thankful to you, Swamiji, for including me in this global meet that you have organized. It just shows your capacity to rope in Swamis from all corners of the world. So this is something remarkable. This shows the spread of the Ramakrishna movement, the Vedanta, Neo Vedanta, as we call it, as interpreted and lived by Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and Holy Mother. So I'm very happy to be participating in this, and I'm grateful to you for inviting me. I offer my pranams to all the other Swamis who have participated, who will be participating tomorrow also. It's a 3-day event. It must have been a rich experience for the listeners as well. So I convey my best wishes to the people who are seeing this talk and who will be seeing it later on YouTube whenever they get time. So, bom dia from Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro. That's good morning. So, I'm new to this place, as Swami Sarvasthananji has told me. I joined Rio. I came to Sao Paulo, Brazil, in November from Chandigarh. So it's just 4 months. It would have been appropriate for Swami Nirmala Atmajnananda, who's been here for more than 25 years, to speak, but he is recovering from 2 cataract surgeries. And so it is okay. I've spoken to him, taken his permission, and he has given me a lot of information. So I've collected a lot of information about the work that is happening in South America, or Latin America, as it is called. So very interesting details are there. There's something mysterious, the way the mission is spreading, the way the mission has started in this part of the globe, so far away from India. Most of the people here have never visited India, have vague ideas about India as it was spread by the Christian missionaries and people who distorted the spiritual message of India. You know, that it was a land of snake charmers, that they burned their widows and all sorts of things, as it was when Swami Vivekananda went to the West for the first time in US. So there were a lot of misconceptions about India, about Vedanta, about Hinduism. And so it is very surprising, it is something wonderful that the Neo Vedanta or Ramakrishna Vivekananda thought is percolating into this part of the world. So very interestingly, the movement started first in Brazil in 1909, just after the Parliament of Religions happened in Chicago. The repercussions of Swami Vivekananda's popularity in the US, the reports that came out in the newspapers in the US, all that had its effect even in South America, though it is so far away. People were interested that there was somebody who could project a different view of religion, of spirituality, somebody who could present something which is higher than the Christianity that they knew. So this, we don't know for sure if there were some people who participated in the Parliament of Religions from South America or Brazil or Argentina. But by 1909, there was one person who came to Brazil in 1880. And then his name is Livaria do Antonio Olívio Rodrigues. Okay, so this man was a Portuguese person, and then he came to Brazil in 1880, and then he started organization, an esoteric organization which was interested in spiritual matters, in mysticism and all these things connected to religion. And he started an organization called Livaria do Circulo Esotérico in Sao Paulo, which is still there even today. There's a beautiful church. I have been to that place. And on the wall, you will find a beautiful relief picture of Swami Vivekananda. So he had 4 people as patrons of this organization. And Swami Vivekananda was one of them. He had another Portuguese person and two of his friends who were popular in Brazil in that time. And Swami Vivekananda was there, and I was so thrilled to see the bust of Swami Vivekananda adorning the wall there. It's there even now. So the organization continued for some time. They used to have lectures, they used to have meetings, discuss various themes on religion and astrology and other things. Now it's almost defunct, but still functioning. So this was the first start of interest in Oriental thought and Vedanta, yoga, etc. So then, in the meantime, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and Raja Yoga got translated into Spanish and was circulated, widely circulated in Argentina and Brazil. It was available in both these places by 1911. So early as 1911, somebody did the translations of the Gospel and Raja Yoga, and people got more interested in this. And by 1932, a group of students from Argentina, they visited Belur Math. They went all the way up to Belur Math, met Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj, Mahapurush Maharaj, and requested that he depute a Swami to Argentina to help them lead a spiritual life and to realize God. So this was something remarkable. Mahapurush Maharaj was deeply impressed, and he could probably see the role of the Ramakrishna movement in these parts. And he assigned Swami Vijayananda Maharaj, who was also called as Pashupati Maharaj, to go to Argentina. Interestingly, there were two delegations which came to meet Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj. One was this delegation from Argentina, a group of students which went there. And then there was another delegation which came from South Africa to meet Swami Shivanandaji. And then they also had a request at the same time. And then Swami Nishreshanji was deputed to South Africa to go to spread the Vedanta movement in South Africa, whereas Vijayananda was asked to come to Argentina. Vijayananda was a wonderful person, a disciple of Swami Brahmananji, and had the privilege of seeing Holy Mother, of being blessed by Holy Mother also. So he was a engineer, chemical engineer. If you have read the reminiscences of Swami Vijayananda about Brahmananji, you get the details about how he came to Swami Brahmananda, how he was influenced, deeply influenced by the spiritual powers of Raja Maharaj. And then when Swami Vijayananda Pashupati Maharaj was asked to come to South America, he was reluctant, in the sense he did not want to come out of India. He did not want to leave the company of the direct disciples who were still living there, especially Mahapurush Maharaj, Kokha Maharaj, and all these people who were there in Belur Math at that time. He was deeply attached to Mahapurush Maharaj and the spiritual culture of Belur Math in India. And then he was hesitant to come away from India. And then Master Mahashai came to know about this, that he was not willing to go to South America, and then he called him to meet him. And the Master Mahashai rebuked Swami Vijayananda Pashupati Maharaj, saying, "You appear to be a coward. You claim to be a soldier of Swami Vivekananda, and now you are refusing to go to South America when you have been assigned the duty. So you should go and work for Swamiji and help spread the message of Ramakrishna Vivekananda." So Pashupati Maharaj told him that he does not want to leave Mahapurush Maharaj and go. And then Master Mahashaya came back even more harshly. He said, "Then that is more selfish. I thought you were only a coward. You seem to be more selfish also. So you should give up this selfishness, go and work for the order." And this was the wonderful idea with which Pashupati Maharaj came, with this zeal and enthusiasm, blessed by Mahapurush Maharaj. And of course, we do know very certainly that Raja Maharaj had given him some spiritual powers. I mean, all the disciples of Raja Maharaj were great in themselves, and Vijayananda also had received some definite, specific powers from Raja Maharaj before he came here, or he had been blessed by Raja Maharaj. And it was very evident in the personality of Swami Vijayananda. He was a very powerful speaker. He could see his disciples, he could understand, he could recognize them even on the first meeting, and then call somebody and say, come, take initiation from me, you are my disciple. This was his power. And then he was a very powerful speaker. People were deeply influenced by him. He learned the Spanish language very quickly and could give fiery speeches. And then in Buenos Aires, the place where we have the center in Argentina, the center started, and people started coming to him, people started getting inspired. And so the movement started first in Argentina in a very solid way through Vijayananda Maharaj. And later on, when the news of Swami Vijayananda's success in Argentina started spreading, so by 1932, a group of students from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro specifically, they invited Swami Vijayananda to come to Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro was the capital of Brazil at that time. And Brazil, incidentally, is the biggest country in South America, the largest country in South America, and has a population which is a little more than the population of Uttar Pradesh in India. So it's a huge country, and a lot of the land is occupied by the Amazon forests, one of the most beautiful countries, very rich in biodiversity, abundant in resources. And as you all know, Rio de Janeiro is one of the most sought after tourist places in the world. You find places of attraction in different parts of the world, maybe the sea beach, or mountains and the forests, or something like that. But in Rio, you have all three at a time in one place. You have extensive sea beaches, one of the most beautiful, and then you have mountains, and then you have forests within the city. So it is such a beautiful place. It's something like heaven on earth. So people flock to this place. Tourists come in multitudes to see the beauty of Rio. It's very well developed. Though it's a third world country, Brazil itself is a third world country. Argentina, at one time, by the 1940s, was one of the most financially strong economies. It was in the top 10 at that time. Even Brazil was doing very well. But then later on, due to the colonization of the Portuguese and taking away of all the resources and all that, it is a third world country now. It is a developing country, as in India's case. So in 1932, a group of Argentinian students requested the Swami from Belur Mutt, and only in 1957, Vijayananda came to Brazil for the first time. He came to Brazil for the first time, to Rio, and then started visiting Rio every year for maybe 1 month or 2 months. And then he started splitting his time between Rio and Sao Paulo. In another 2 years, devotees from Sao Paulo started inviting him. And then he started going there for about a month, and then talking to people, staying there, giving talks, initiating people. So Vijayananda Maharaj created a wonderful base, both in Argentina, of course, it was established already in Argentina, and in Brazil for the spread of the movement. It was directly because of his influence, his powerful personality, that people started coming, people stuck to him together. And then by the time he became old, in 1968, he had been to Belur Mutt, Swami Vijayananda, and then brought along with him a Swami Paratparananji, as his assistant. So Paratparanji was there, and then Vijayananda Maharaj passed away in 1973. Unfortunately, after the passing away of Swami Vijayananda, a few of his, specifically maybe one or two of the brahmacharis who were there with him, who were his own disciples, they somehow could not accept the new Swami and said, we don't need somebody from India to come and then direct us. So there was a split in the movement in Rio at that time. And Pashupati Maharaj was, this Parat Paranji Maharaj was a wonderful person, very good sadhu, very timid and soft-spoken. And he did not want to go into all the legal issues of the split and all that. And then he said, you take away all this land or whatever it is. And then he moved over to another place, which was supported by just 4 staunch devotees. They came to support him. They started having meetings in apartments. Of course, the center in Argentina was going on well, but the split happened in Rio de Janeiro. So we lost a beautiful property, and that thing is still going on. That those people have passed away, but then his disciples and others, they have mixed Vedanta with various other things, as it usually happens, but it's still functioning somewhere in its own way in Rio. So here, this small group was there in Rio and in Sao Paulo. The group was there, and Parat Paranji Maharaj around him, this group started growing. And Parat Paranji was also a wonderful person. And then he used to invite so many Swamis to come and speak to these people. So under his influence, and because of the influence of the Swamis who came from outside South America, like Swami Bhaskaranji has come, Ritajananji used to come from Graz, Swami Chetananji has come here, and then Pareshananji from Argentina has been visiting now, who replaced Parat Paranji later on. So all these people have been inspiring the local devotees with Ramakrishna Vivekananda Vedanta thought. And the literature was also translated in those days, early days. The gospel was translated, and the 4 yogas were translated in Spanish, but the translations were not very good in those days. And now Sao Paulo Center, since it's very well established, they have taken up this publication work, and they are redoing all the publication work in a very nice and clean way. So all these Swamis, Prabhrajikas have been visiting Brazil and Argentina. Dear Swami Smarananji Maharaj has come here, Prabhananji Maharaj has come here, Suhitananji Maharaj has visited. So all these visits has kept alive this interest in Vedanta, Ramakrishna Vedanta movement. So now we have so many centers in Brazil. We have 3 official centers, the main center being Sao Paulo, where we have Swami Nirmala Atmananji, and he is assisted by Swami Jitananji, who is from Brazil, and Swami Tapasya, who has come just last year from India to assist him. So that's a vibrant center doing a lot of activities apart from the lectures that they have thrice a week. They have service activities. Service activities is like distribution of clothes. We collect garments from people. You see, people who are well-to-do usually put on their garments only for once or maybe twice at the most. They buy costly dresses, but then use it only once, and then they don't want to use them. So we invite these people to donate those garments. It involves a lot of work. So some of the devotees collect all these garments, dresses, and then clean them up properly, and then exhibit them properly on specific days. So it's a bargain sale like. So at a very cheap rate, these garments are displayed for the people to come and select and choose whatever they want. So that's a very good source of publicity also. Poor people, homeless people come there and then choose these garments, which they get good quality at very affordable prices, and it generates a little income for the ashrama also. Apart from this, just before Christmas, we in Sao Paulo, I saw the program last year. So people donate food, materials, clothes, toys, reading materials, etc., for the entire family. So especially toys and sweets for the children who are deprived of the luxuries like the rich people. So these people are homeless, and the poor who live in the favelas. Slums are called favelas in Brazil. So these people come and then take these material for Christmas celebration. I was surprised to see that these poor people come in cars to collect the free gifts that are being given. So they are poor considered here, but by Indian standards, they are quite all right, well, maybe middle class or even a little lower than that. So yeah, the standard of living is a little high than in India here, but they are grateful for getting these things. They come and then take it very thankfully. They are happy to get those materials. So this is one important way in which the devotees involved in doing social work, in trying to help the needy. So that is a wonderful initiative that Swami Nirmalatmaji has encouraged in Sao Paulo. And then distribution of clothes, as I said, is already there. And then we have another beautiful center, Kurushiba, where there is Swami Pragnatmananji, who has also joined last year. So that has also been accepted as an independent center by the Ramakrishna movement in the Ramakrishna order. And he is also giving lectures, establishing himself. People are accepting him. He is learning the language. So very shortly, he should be able to establish himself very well. So then just last year, again, Rio de Janeiro was also accepted as a center. So long it has been a sub-center of our Sao Paulo center for more than 60 years. People who were disciples of Vijayananda and others held on and have been coming and then participating in this movement. Lectures, readings were held in small apartments, and then a house was purchased where the center is there now. This house was built in 1865, even when Sri Ramakrishna was alive. So we have this beautiful house in Rio now in one of the most popular areas called Santa Teresa. So it's a very old establishment, but beautiful house. The people who come here admire this house, the construction. It has huge walls, very thick walls, without using any cement. In those days, cement was not available. So it is only mortar, mud, and whale oil. So this is a beautiful house. So we have 2 floors. The ground floor has a temple, and the top floor has a lecture hall, the meeting place where we can accommodate more than 100 people. So this is the establishment in Rio. And then we have 2 more centers which are very well to do, which are doing very good. One is in Belo Horizonte and another in Brasilia, the capital, the new capital of Brazil. So both of these are also well established. So we have 3 official centers and at least 3 sub-centers which are yet to be affiliated, but which are being guided by Swami Nirmalatmananji. He goes there frequently and then gives talks, meet the devotees. I think the credit of the expansion of the movement in Brazil must go directly to Swami Nirmalatmananji, the way in which he has held on to the people, all the old devotees, brought them together, and then his organizational capacity through which new centers and groups have started. Apart from Brazil and Argentina, there are some groups in Uruguay and Chile and some other parts of Latin America. Swami Nirmalatmanji has visited quite a few of them, and they do have correspondence with him. So slowly, probably, the mission is going to, or the movement is going to spread to other countries in South America also. There is scope for development. And interestingly, what I found out when I came to Brazil, or even before coming to Brazil, you all know that some wonderful incidents have happened with regard to the movement in South America. So I think it would be appropriate to narrate how Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, are doing their work. We are only servants. We are only trying to serve them through our work, when we do whatever we do in the centers when we are posted. So it is Ramakrishna and Mother and Swamiji who are doing their work. They are spreading. It is the power of the avatar, power of the incarnation, you see. So as Swami Vivekananda says, truth does not pay homage to society. Society pays homage to truth. So it is truth, and truth has to spread today or tomorrow. So these beautiful incidents I would like to narrate about how there was a person who had the vision of Holy Mother. You must have read about this person, Antonio Pieri Clat. He was from Cairo in Egypt when he was young. And then when he was a young boy, he was infected by typhoid. And in those days, medicines for typhoid were not available. And the family, the parents thought that this child is going to pass away. It's going to die in a matter of 3 or 4 days. And when it was the 4th day, they thought he's not going to survive anymore. He was down with fever and terribly weak. Typhoid was taking over. And his mother, out of concern, gave him a small picture of Virgin Mary and said, please pray to Mother Mary to protect you, and may you recover by her grace. And she is the only source of strength now. We have no other way to help you. And then she gave this picture, and this young boy, the small boy, was crying to Mother Mary and praying to her. And suddenly he had the vision of a lady dressed in white robes he could not identify. She looked so pure and full of light and all that. She came and then gave him some medicine, juice or something, lemonade or something, and said, you take this and you'll be cured. He felt so calm and peaceful seeing this lady, the vision. And then this lady gave him that lemonade, and this man drank that and soon started recovering. In a matter of days, he was completely normal, fine. But he did not know who this lady was, who she was. And after some time, as he grew and all that, in search of job, and he got a job in Brazil and came and started settling down in Sao Paulo. He was a Christian. And he got married, he had children, and then this incident was practically forgotten in his life. He did not remember it or whatever it is, though he was curious to know who that lady was, who came and helped him, who saved his life. And then suddenly, when he was quite old, one of his cousins by name Samir, he brought him along for a walk one day in Sao Paulo, and they were going in front of the ashram, which is there now. And he said, oh, why don't we just go in and then have a peep into this Ramakrishna Vedanta center here? So then the both of them entered the house there in Sao Paulo. And as soon as they entered, there at the entrance on the table was a picture of Holy Mother, Sharda Devi. This man stopped, surprised. Oh, this is the lady who came and saved me when I was a boy in Cairo, in Egypt. She is this lady. Who is this? And then all this. And then he was introduced to Ramakrishna, Sharda Devi. He remained a staunch admirer of Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and all that. But he is no more now. He passed away recently. And then when Smarananandji Maharaj came here on a visit in 2002, it was incidentally at the same time that this man passed away. Smarananandji and Nirmalatmanji went to their house to pay their condolences. So anyhow, the other members of the family are not interested, but this man was so deeply interested and connected to Ramakrishna Vivekananda because of the vision of Holy Mother. So this is one inspiring incident with Brazil. There is another much more inspiring incident that has happened in Brazil, very surprisingly. So this man, Professor Arlindo Silva, he started an organization called Missão Ramakrishna. It was not connected with the Ramakrishna mission, but he named it as Missão Ramakrishna. It's a beautiful incident. This professor was sitting outside his house by the swimming pool, probably having his breakfast or doing some reading, and suddenly a figure appeared before him, a strange looking figure with robes and all that came before him and then said, do something for the poor people, orphan people, the children who are not able to get education. He said, what is this person? Who is this person coming and then trying to make me do something for the poor people? Who is he to come and tell me? But then he had some doubts. It was a vision. And then he knew that it's an authentic vision. The person was there with some spiritual power. The way in which he was telling him, he could feel that power. So then he had his spiritual master who was a spiritualist. So he went to him and then asked him, this is the vision that I had. Do you think I should follow what this man has told me? He said, yes, that's a true vision. You must do this work that he has told. So this man collected some 3-4 students from around his neighborhood who are poor, and then started giving them some education and all that. Then again, this person gave him a vision one day and said, no, I'm not happy with what you're doing, not on this small scale. Go into the interiors, try to gather more children. I did not ask you to do it near your home. Go to the interiors and try to gather more children and teach them. So this man again went to his spiritual teacher and then said, see, this man has come again and told me like this. And they said, yes, this is what you have to do. You have to go again into the interiors. So he went to the interiors, and then the place is called Minas Gerais in Betim, which is about 50 kilometers, 50 to 60, 80 kilometers from Sao Paulo. He went there, and in 1950, he started the Ramakrishna Mission, Betim. And now, today, it has grown so much. There are more than 400 students who are being fed, who are being looked after, who are being given education in this institution. So this Swami started this institution, and then after a few years, again, there was a crisis. They did not have water, drinking water. So there was scarcity of water, so they could not function. And then there was a time when it was to be closed down because of lack of water and facilities. So, and then again, this man had the vision of this Swami-like person who came and told him, you see, you go to this particular spot. They were trying to dig bore wells and get water, but they were not successful. Then this vision he had the third time, where this person comes and tells him that you go to this particular spot and you will get water, you will encounter a big rock, but don't stop there, go below, and below the rock you will get fresh, good water. And this person obeyed the Swami's orders, and he found such wonderful water which is sustaining them even now. So who was this person who gave him a vision? 3 times, not once, but 3 times. And interestingly, it was Swami Brahmanandaji. Of all the people, not Swami Vivekananda, not Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, it was Swami Brahmanandaji who gave him vision 3 times and then initiated this movement of service. It is functioning even now. They have a journal which they spread about, at least one page is dedicated to Ramakrishna Vivekananda Vedanta thought. They have various activities, service activities, through which the children who go through that institution can stand on their feet, learn different trades as carpentry or sewing or various other jobs, and they are able to contribute to the society. So this is another aspect of the movement in the Brazil, in this far off country. So ultimately, it is Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Vivekananda, and these people who have decided to spread themselves in this part of the world. So all that we can do is only serve and see that this process is a smooth process. Sri Ramakrishna, as you all know, had a vision one day. We find this in the gospel. One day he tells Holy Mother, you see, I had a vision. I was in a far off land. There were people who were white all around me, who were having so great respect for me, whose hearts were white. They had so much respect for me, devotion for me. They were treating me with love. They were serving me with love. So I like them so much. I want to be there. I don't know why I came back. I did not want to come back. You called me back. So this was Sri Ramakrishna's experience. He wanted to be with these people and then help them grow spiritually. So wherever there is some spirituality, wherever there is some longing to realize God, to realize truth, Sri Ramakrishna is there to help them. This is what we learn. So then there is another beautiful subcenter of our Sao Paulo, which is called the Embu Gasu, which is about 50 kilometers from Sao Paulo. There's a beautiful shrine. There is a monk's quarters, women's guest house, a big garden. It's in a natural setting, something similar to Mayavati, though not so at such altitude. It is beautiful natural setting, village area, and then full of forest trees and all that. Very calm, absolutely calm and quiet. So there are occasional retreats that are held there by our Sao Paulo Center. I had the opportunity to attend one retreat when I came to Brazil. It was a beautiful retreat. Devotees come and stay for the whole day practically, and then spend time in listening to talks and reading on Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and Vedanta. So that is about 50 kilometers from Sao Paulo. It's a beautiful retreat center. And in 1960s, the translation, as I said, had already started. It was not so very good, but most of the books are being redone now. New publications, new editions of the books have come out, which are becoming very popular. In 2013, a journal by the Sao Paulo Center was started, Vedanta Journal, and we have around 400 subscribers now. So the Four Yogas, the Eternal Companion, which has gone to the third edition, and the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother are already there. And 20 families of Sao Paulo, poor families of Sao Paulo, get every month around 20 to 30 kgs of food material and other necessities which sustains them. So this is another important service activity that is being done by Sao Paulo. Rio Center or Kurushiba Center are just fledgling, and then slowly we have to start such service activities because there are people who need help. So recently there were landslides due to heavy rain in part of Rio, and there was devastation. There were a lot of people who lost their homes and whatever they had. So we gathered some food material, tarpaulins and other things from the devotees, came forward. We collected it in Rio and then distributed it at the Petropolis, the place where this landslide was there. So service is not the main focus. That is a part of the movement here. The main focus is on talks, on meeting people and trying to make them understand the breadth and the universal appeal of Ramakrishna Vivekananda Neo Vedanta thought. So most of the devotees who come here are Christians. You know, the South America, Argentina, Brazil are Christian countries. Even here, you have Catholics, you have Protestants. Christianity is the basic faith here. And then the attendance in the churches on Sundays when they have events is something houseful. People attend, they are deeply devotional, they have deep faith in God, they are very emotional people, they love to talk to people, they love to mix and interact. So it's very easy to make friends with people here. So as soon as you meet people in 5 minutes, they become very close to you. They are very emotional people, much like the Indians, especially the Bengalis. They love to talk and share food and meet. And people, even on the roads, who are absolutely not known to you, they have a beautiful smile and wish you bom dia, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And then recently I was going for a walk in the road just in front of the ashram. There was a poor lady who was selling some fruits and vegetables on the street corner. And then I saw her and then wished her. And then she said, "Oh God, Jesus, may He take care of you." So this is the attitude, such deep devotion these people have, faith, and there is some amount of disturbance. They don't want to accept everything that the church says. So Vedanta gives them a new light. This uh, acceptance of other religions, cultures, and faiths, and then having a universal outlook that truth is one, God is one, that we approach God through different paths. This is something novel, new for them. This shows them the humanitarian, human aspect of Ramakrishna Vedanta. They are coming to accept this. They love this ideal that we need not be narrow and selfish and try to accept everybody into our fold. This idea is slowly taking ground. So there is deep appreciation for Ramakrishna Vivekananda. And apart from the inspiration that they get from Swamiji by reading his books and the life of Sri Ramakrishna, it is Holy Mother Sharda Devi who inspires them so much. They are able to identify immediately Holy Mother with Mother Mary and Santa Mai. They call her Santa Mai. So they are basically mother worshippers. There is a beautiful shrine here in between Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro called Aparecida, where there is a beautiful church of Mother Mary. A very small image. It was supposed to have been found in the ocean, and then that was brought and then established. It's a big church now, big establishment now. People have deep faith in this as she is the guardian angel of Brazil. So Aparecida, so people identify mother sometimes with her as Mother Mary. So Santa Mai, she is called, the saintly mother. So they identify themselves as her children and are deeply devoted. And interestingly, both in Sao Paulo and in Rio, the devotees come every day and then sing in the Arati without even looking into the books. So they have their music group, they take up instruments, play, and then sing the Khandana, Om Hri Mritam, Sarvamangala Mangali so beautifully. And every Monday, Ritujananji Maharaj started Shiva Mahimna Stotra. So they come and sing Shiva Mahimna Stotra on every Monday. So they come for the lectures. They are deeply interested and have no prejudices. They have an open mind. They are willing to accept new ideas, new aspects of religion and spirituality. They are deeply devotional. So in course of time, by the grace of Thakur Ma Swamiji, I think the movement is going to take a bigger shape in South America. There are so many centers coming up now, new Swamis are coming, and so probably by the grace of God, things will be brighter in the future. So I think I've given a bird's eye view of the entire movement in Argentina and Brazil, though I have not had the opportunity to visit all the centers. I've seen pictures, I know about them. Swami Nirmalatmanji has given me a lot of information about it. maybe in course of time, he has traveled extensively all over this continent. And maybe in course of time, if God wills, yes, I'll be able to see all these centers and interact with people. Uh, so I am thankful to Swami Sarvasthananji for giving me this wonderful opportunity to express my views about South America. And the devotees of South America convey their warm wishes to all the other devotees from all over the world who are watching this. So the Brazilian devotees, when I told them that there is such a meeting that I have to participate, they were all so thrilled and said, "Oh, so wonderful!" So they are expecting that the other devotees will come to know about Rio and Sao Paulo.
Yeah,
So that is something very exciting for them. They are thrilled, really. Thank you for
that
giving.
was our idea, so that we come to know about the different
Yes, yes,
activities and how different centers are managed. There's one small question,
yeah,
a remark sort of. He's asking about, he's mentioning that there are the most amazing resources for Vedantic literature on a site affiliated with the Sao Paulo site. This is at estudentevedanta.net. So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
very grateful because most of the books have been converted into PDF. So I think
Yes,
many people are using that site, the Sao Paulo site.
yes,
So
yes.
he's,
So our Sao Paulo Center has been organizing the websites of all the centers. Now we have websites for Sao Paulo, Rio, Curitiba, Belo Horizonte. So a lot of information, good thoughts are going to people. People are able to see all this.
yeah,
There is a lot of response.
yes, very good. So I was just seeing the chat if there are some questions. Swami Muktidanji is already there. Maharaj,
Yeah,
pranam.
yes, grabbing the occasion.
Maharaj, you can unmute yourself. I'll highlight you.
It's
Yes.
such a great opportunity for me to see the great Swami.
Our namaskars to everybody.
Yes, Maharaj, pranams to you and glad to have you again. This is our second webinar. Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We are able to hear you.
Yes.
I can
So
see the
it's,
response on his face.
so it is almost 9 o'clock there, isn't it, in India? I hope it is not very late.
No, no, it's we are right on time. We have
Yes.
finished our supper. We are
Okay.
ready to hear everybody.
Yes. So now, without wasting much time, I'm first of all, I convey my thanks to Atmajnananda for a wonderful description. Hope some of us get an opportunity to visit Brazil and see the different
Yes,
centers, and we would definitely be very happy to invite him here to UK, United Kingdom, and also maybe he can tour Europe. Of course, Swami Nirmalatmanji is coming maybe next month. He is coming here for staying for a few days here. So it will be nice to hear from him as well, uh, all the experiences. So thank you once again, Swami Atmajnananda Maharaj, and
thank you
wish
so
you
much,
all
Swami.
the best
So,
for the future of the Ramakrishna movement in South America.
yeah, we
Yes.
look forward to your visit to Brazil and Argentina. Do
Yes,
come.
yes, sure.
Welcome,
So,
Swami.
yes,
Welcome.
namaste, namaste.
Pranams to
So,
Muktidananda.
Pranam, pranam, namaskar, namaskar.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
So your visit is also due
Yes, yes. Nice
to
to
this
see
part of the world.
you are sitting on the other side of the globe.
But we
Yeah.
belong to the family of Ramakrishna Vivekananda. We are all their children, wherever
Yes,
we are.
yes,
One
yes.
family.
Nice to see you. My
Thank
predecessor here in Mysore.
Swamiji.
Yes.
Yes, Swamiji. Yes, Swamiji. Thank you. Thank you, Swamiji.
So our next second talk will be on a very, very important topic, the uniqueness and spiritual glory of the Ramakrishna order. But this is actually what expansion, or maybe the expansion of the Ramakrishna movement really means. As I said, history is the expansion of activities and external things. But the uniqueness of the Ramakrishna order is in its spiritual glory, the internal development, the unfoldment of the divinity which is within. So this is a very good theme, and I would request Swami Muktidananda to speak on this theme. But before that, I'll give a very brief introduction. So Swami Muktidananda Maharaj, as you all know, we have had him in a previous webinar as well. He's the Adhyaksha of Sri Ramakrishna Ashrama, Mysuru, and also one of the trustees of the entire Ramakrishna Math and Mission. So he's a postgraduate in science from Mumbai University, Bombay University, and he joined the Ramakrishna Ashram at Mysuru in 82. So he's there for a very, very long time. For a brief period, he was in some other centers, but he has been in Mysuru, has done wonderful work. He is initiated by revered Swami Vireshwaranandji Maharaj and had his sannyasa diksha from revered Swami Bhuteshanji Maharaj in the year 1993. So he has served at Sri Ramakrishna Vidyashala, which is a premier residential educational institute of our Mysuru Ashrama for over 2 decades and as chief administrator for 16 years. So he has a wonderful experience with students. He has molded so many students through his personal guidance and contact, and many of them uh, have been very successful in life, very noble citizens. They become noble citizens. So subsequently, after serving Mysore for a very long time, he was the Adhyaksha of Mumbai. He served as the Adhyaksha of Mumbai and also Advaita Ashrama Mayavati, on which we will be hearing. The last talk of our 3-day webinar will be on Advaita Ashrama Mayavati, a confluence of the East and the West, where Mrs. Xavier had a lot to contribute. So he had initiated the renovation, which has now just been completed. He undertook a wonderful job of preserving as it is the original building where Swami Vivekananda stayed. He visited Mayavati. It was started when he was still alive, just before his Mahasamadhi visited, and he stayed. That building has been renovated, and it's one of the dream centers of Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Muktidananda was the Adhyaksha, head of Advaita Ashrama also. So he has contributed many articles in monthly journals like Prabuddha Bharata, Vedanta Kesari, our Kannada magazine, Vivek Prabha, and he has a special grounding being associated with students for such a long time. Education, Indian philosophy, yoga psychology, Indian culture. So he has also given a series of talks which are very popular, Chintana, which is organized by Akashwani, Mysuru. It's a radio program, Chintana. So he has given a series of talks in that on radio as well. And he has been conducting guided meditation classes for students and spiritual seekers for years now. And also his specialty is, as I said, education, personality development, science of worship, and such other subjects for students, professionals in various forums and functions held in different parts of Karnataka and India. So I would now request Swami Muktidananda to speak on this very important theme, the uniqueness and spiritual glory of the Ramakrishna order. Over to Swami Muktidananda.
Thank you, Sarvastanji Maharaj. I'm indeed very glad to be with you all this evening to participate in this program arranged by Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre, London, Burnham. This 3 days webinar in which we are going to discuss the various aspects of Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement and Ramakrishna mission, which has completed 125 years. The May 1st was the foundation day, and to commemorate that, we have all gathered together and reflect over such a great spiritual, cultural movement of a worldwide significance. Its contribution to the well-being of mankind is enormous, Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement in just 125 years has spread all over the world in both the hemispheres. Its qualitative analysis is a matter of really a significant study. Human welfare, human evolution, human well-being, and Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement and the mission need to be correlated and studied. We all human beings living on this planet have this death-bound body, and to know our real nature behind the body, mind, and ego is called as spirituality. And that spirituality is the center of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement and Ramakrishna mission. The foundation of the Ramakrishna mission is mystical spiritual experiences of a wide range that Sri Ramakrishna had, right from the Kali Darshan and the vision of many gods and goddesses, the anthropomorphic divine forms, as well as his experience of Vedanta, the ultimate Nirvikalpa Samadhi of a non-dual nature. And coupled with this, he was so compassionate to evolve a spiritual movement which is devoid of any sectarianism. It is all-embracing. It accommodates everybody. It is all-inclusive. That was the command of Sri Ramakrishna to his dear disciple Narendranath, that to see that this movement does not get embroiled in any sectarianism. So the Ramakrishna movement is one whose canvas, whose mosaic is such that it welcomes everybody, it rejects none. It is deeply spiritual in the sense everybody wants to know the truth of our being before we cast off this mortal coil. So Ramakrishna, Vivekananda and Sharada Devi, who are the central spiritual figures, the luminaries of a divine origin, but it is very historical and not mythical or mythological. Ramakrishna demonstrated the truth of spirituality, its practicality, its validity, its relevance to amidst the glare of the Calcutta people sitting in that room of Dakshineshwar, radiating spirituality to all over the world. So he practiced different aspects of Hindu religion and had a first-hand experience of the divine, the mystical experience of the divine, and also tried to practice and experience the divinity through Christianity and Islam in his own way, and demonstrated to the world. Jato mat tato pat. So there are as many paths as there are so many minds. Divinity is one, God is one, and all can reach him if we follow certain spiritual discipline and principles. So he made the spiritual experience of God, which is the strength of and the crown of any spiritual global socio-cultural movement, and it is the strength of the Ramakrishna order that in these recent decades, recent history, within 125 years, we have been able to get about thousands of renunciates who joined the order. The present strength may be perhaps 1,600 to 700. And our centers may be around all over the world, including India, maybe around 215 or 25. And the millions of people in the both the hemispheres are looking out for a real, practical, non-sectarian, spiritual ideal where there is scope for self-actualization as well as for self-transcendence. It is the genius of Swami Vivekananda who gave such a wonderful, unique, broad-based, open-ended ideal to the Ramakrishna movement, namely the twin ideals, Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya Cha. That is self-transcendence and self-actualization of the highest order. Atmano Mokshartha is the transcending ourselves and experiencing the divinity. That is the purpose of the human existence. Another is doing good to the world, well-being of the world, thinking that God himself dwells in this world as Antaryamin, as Sarvantaryami. So, this kind of a broad-based ideal wherein you have a concept of highest self-transcendence and self-actualization means objective world, whatever you see, ensuring their welfare. So these are the twin ideal of the Ramakrishna movement. Ramakrishna movement is its origin and development is a matter of recent history which is authentically recorded, and it is not mythological and not imaginary, but real fact of recent times. Another unique feature of the Ramakrishna movement is its vast spiritual vision, progressive and all-inclusive cultural and spiritual approach. One has to study deeply the life and ideas and ideals put forth in the luminous Ramakrishna's life and Swami Vivekananda's life and Holy Mother Sharada Devi's life. They are like the lighthouse to mankind as they lived in the recent history. The spiritual truth, the veracity of the spiritual disciplines and spiritual principles are tested in the lives of these great luminaries, and also later they had other 15 direct disciples and hundreds of thousands of Ramakrishna Vivekananda followers have had a different types of spiritual experience. And apart from that, it is not that we are just rustic and monastic and endemic to our monasticism. Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement stretches out all over and conducts relief work whenever there is a calamity, whenever there is a need. It reaches out to the distant tribals in the remote villages who are untouched by the civilizational advantages like Abujmal in Narayanpur. It also takes care of the elite intellectuals and also all those who are in between. So Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement can cater to the needs of all strata of the society, all levels of intellectuals, on all colors and shades of the human existence. That is why, and compassion of Sri Ramakrishna is something which is very, very noteworthy. Swami Vivekananda in his poem, he says his compassion ranges from Achandala Pratihatarayo Yasya Prema Pravaha. So his love and compassion is touching the lives of the remotest, the backward people, and also the most advanced people in the cosmopolitan cities. So this is the range of the Ramakrishna movement. And just in 125 years, whatever has unfolded, whatever has unfurled, it is time that we, during this 125 years of the spread of the movement, we are commemorating the foundation day of the Ramakrishna movement. And it is time that we really make a special analytical study and qualitative analysis of the Ramakrishna movement as compared to the many other socio-cultural and other religious movements all over the neo-religious movements all over the world. Ramakrishna mission believes in broad-based existence and not in regimentation. Ramakrishna mission is an instrument of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and Holy Mother, a global instrument which is struggling to translate and give expression to the vast and deep life of the Holy Triumph. In these 125 years, what we have been able to achieve needs to be assessed, and we must look forward to see how this movement can reach every nook and corner of the globe. Such are the potentials of this movement that there are about 12 syntheses we can identify in the Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement in Ramakrishna mission. They are syntheses between ancient and modern, secular and spiritual, work and worship, science and religion, East and West, knowledge and devotion, tradition and innovation, faith and reason, intellect and emotion, universalism and patriotism, liberation and well-being of the world, philosophy and practice. We can see a number of syntheses. Swamiji's vision, right from the cave days to the modern times, Swamiji looked at the whole gamut of the human existence with a futuristic vision, with the present day relevance. And every bit of knowledge which has emerged in the human mind, right from the cave days to the modern times, he has integrated, he has synthesized, and he has made into a very, very, what is called as the global knowledge body, where all essentials are taken into account, rejecting all the non-essentials, giving importance to that which transforms and that which takes the humanity forward, that which lifts the human mind and the heart. Those ideas are put together in the Ramakrishna movement, and this kind of a synthesis of the best of the past knowledge of humanity is interwoven here into a new knowledge body, which has present-day relevance and futuristic vision. So Ramakrishna Mission is not just a social service and extrovert organization. We are supposed to look within ourselves and experience the truth of our being, that is the Atmano Moksha. Simultaneously, when you are on the journey of an inner discovery of the divinity, you also simultaneously reach out to the people around, considering that the divinity that we are trying to see within is also there without in everybody. So every work becomes a worship if it is done in a proper perspective, as demonstrated by Ramakrishna, Vijayananda, and Holy Mother. And that is what is called as practical Vedanta. Spirituality in the Ramakrishna Mission is not static. It is very dynamic. Yet we have centers which can cater to the need of the urban modern people with modern gaskets. And we too have centers in the deep jungles of Himalayas or in villages where rustic, pure, ancient Gurukula type of life is also lived. So wide range of that mosaic of the Ramakrishna Mission is very unique. And this is a genius of Swami Vivekananda, who has masterminded the knowledge, the life that is around the world by directly encountering the entire global life like a palm of his hand. Soon after his sannyasa, he went around India as a parivrajaka and studied the life and the culture and the situation of the people, not from books, but directly encountering and seeing life and meeting people from beggars to kings. Similarly, went around the world, saw the global life, the panorama of the global life, and understood how and where the humanity is progressing. What are the forces which are at work? What are the historical forces which are still working on us? And how do we make how we are to make a new history based on this great ideal, the highest ideal any human beings can have, that is self-transcendence and self-actualization, which means in Swamiji's words, Atmano Mokshartam and Jagat Hitayacha. Highest level of self-transcendence, highest pinnacle of self-actualization is the goal of the human beings. As an individual, as in society, we need to set up an ideal society where spirituality, which is search for truth of our own existence, and the well-being of the people are commingled and integrated and made into our lifestyle, made into our religion, made into a spiritual practice, made into a way of life, even in the secular area. So this is the uniqueness of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement, which is having its own great spiritual glory. Spirituality is inseparable from the Ramakrishna movement. Though externally we do a lot of work, we construct buildings, we do a lot of service and activities, it is buzzing with a lot of activities, but underneath the spirituality is smoldering. The strength of the Ramakrishna order is spirituality and search for truth and self-actualization. The external service is an expression of the spirituality. And Ramakrishna has, and Vivekananda and Sharada Devi have actually set up in such a broad-based ideal. Even the householders can really try to reach this twin ideal, that self-realization as well as service to the mankind. So the Rishi ideal of the ancient, our Vedic time, where rishis, most of the rishis were married, but they had the goal of self-transcendence, to know the truth right from their early boyhood days. Their education was closely intertwined, both secular and spiritual. And they passed through the youth, the householders, grihastha life, and later they got delved deep into the spiritual search at the fag end of their life and became the rishis and discovered the truth. This is a complete, total life perspective. Both secular and spiritual are commingled. Ramakrishna, by marrying Sharada Devi, also sanctified the household and upheld the ideal of householder, who constitute 99% of the human population. So Ramakrishna movement caters to the spiritual and secular well-being of all the family people. Spiritualizing family life is a very important part of the Ramakrishna movement. That is why millions of families are connected to Ramakrishna movement and participate in our spiritual journey, and also our programs of doing good to the humanity by varieties of service activity. So I'm glad that the London Centre is organizing such a wonderful webinar to commemorate the 125th year of the foundation day of the Ramakrishna mission by arranging the talks by monks who are in the different parts of the globe. I suppose you already heard yesterday 3 talks, and today perhaps this is the second talk. One more talk is going to be held now, and tomorrow again 3 more talks from the monks who hail from different countries and different regions, and they will definitely unfold the service activity, the dynamics, the spirituality of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement, the Ramakrishna mission, and place before all the audience and the world over the truth of the Ramakrishna movement. I conclude here and thank Swami Sarvastanandaji Maharaj for giving me an opportunity to be with you all this evening.
Maharaj, we have time. You can please continue. We just you can speak for another. There are a few questions,
Yes.
but I think they're not. There is one question, but still you continue, Maharaj, if you like, for another 10 minutes.
Oh, I can continue.
Yeah.
Not that I should not exceed the time.
No. There is 29 minutes you have, and leaving maybe some 10 minutes for question answers. You can please continue.
Okay. See, talking about this uniqueness of this Ramakrishna movement, which has emerged from West Bengal of India under the inspiring foundational life of a God-realized luminaries, is a unique phenomenon in the world history. If we have to see the past spiritual religious movements and the Ramakrishna movement, its authentic spiritual base, Tapasya, its way in which penetrates into the life of the people with the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga. And as a part of the Karma Yoga, we undertake all kinds of service activities, right from hospitals, schools, orphanages, flood and famine relief for old age homes, and so on. Varieties of service activities for the well-being of the people is undertaken by Ramakrishna Mission in such a systematic, perfect manner, with perfect accountability, following the law of the land of every country, especially in India. So, it is not that we are only shut inside the ashrama and leading an ascetic life of a Himalayan style. We are there out in the world, amidst people, thereby driving home to the people that spirituality can be commingled with activity. Spiritual transformation is possible even amidst family life, amidst household life, by doing the activity. This is one of the important message of the Ramakrishna movement. It is not simply restricted to the rustic spirituality or the endemic spirituality. It is lends itself to the workaday world, to the common people, to have a spiritual ideal in their heart along with their day-to-day duties and responsibilities. This is a unique thrust and contribution, especially of Swami Vivekananda, through his philosophy of practical Vedanta. And this, the key idea, the basic idea for which was given to him by none other than his Guru, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who told him that Shivajnane Jiva Seva ideal, who initiated Swami Vivekananda into Shiva Bhave Jiva Seva ideal, that to consider working for any other individual is only serving God in man. This ideal of practical Vedanta through a neo karma yoga. Bhagavad Gita also tells yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat jihosi, yadathiyat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, kurushva madarpanam. So every work can be offered to the divine, and our spiritual journey can be continued even amidst the din and bustle of the day-to-day work, provided we have that awareness, we have that consciousness, we have that sensitivity, and we have the goal-orientedness, and we have that inner spiritual aspiration to know the truth, wanting to know the truth in and through all the course of life. This is the speciality of Ramakrishna movement, where the sedentary tapas doing sitting in one place for a number of hours, and the dynamic tapas of having that awareness within and seeing that same divine everywhere and trying to do the work for the well-being of the world. This is very well demonstrated through our mission activities. We are all in the particular stages of development. We don't claim that everything that we do is perfect, but we are striving and struggling to stretch ourselves to reach out to the world through service, and also actualize our spiritual ideal by our own inner sadhana. So internal spiritual sadhana and external service, which also has to be the expression of the sadhana, that spiritual practice. So these two poles are connected by the connection of the karma, that is karma yoga, and the jnana yoga and the bhakti yoga are integrated. Tapas and the work, jnana and the work, bhakti and service, they are all connected in the Ramakrishna movement. That is why it is so dynamic. That is why it is vibrant. That is why it is luminous. And angularities of every personalities are rounded off by, in the field of work, the inner samskaras which are expressed and seen and transformed in the spiritualized activities of the mission. So the transformation at a different level has to take place. The individual human personality as well as the collective society, we are all striving for a transformation, to evolve ourselves into a better human beings who need to know that the truth of our personality, having had the death-bound body. So this is the call of the evolution. What is this twin ideal, Atmano Mokshartham Jagadhitaya Cha, is the call of the human evolution, spiritual evolution, and without the spirituality has to go hand in hand with the day-to-day life in the world, the material life in the world. So that is what Swami Vivekananda has been striving. How spirituality can be very, meaningfully blended with the day-to-day natural life of the people in the world. That is one of the greatest contribution of the Ramakrishna order, and which needs to be studied and taken to its logical end in the years to come. So that is the Atmana Mokshartham and Jagadhitaya Cha is not just these words we utter. It is very deep, it's very vast, it's as deep as the ocean, as vast as the sky. It is the ultimate goal of mankind. That is, if at all mankind can have the highest goal, and whatever is the highest goal, that can evolve around only these twin ideal. With this, I conclude once again, thanking Sarvasthananji for giving me another 10 minutes.
Maharaj, there is one more question. We have time, so you please continue. Our Swami Satyamayananda will be joining only after 20 minutes, but there is a very interesting question, which is on comparative religion. Based on what you said just now, there is a question from UK, United Kingdom, that are we to understand that you are encouraging the setting up of a new comparative study between the RKM and Ramakrishna Mission and the other social cultural organizations, or is there a study which has already been started?
I do not like to, have an approach which will hurt anybody by comparison, or this kind of a one-upmanship and all that, but a qualitative study of the truth of the Ramakrishna Mission in the last 125 years of its history, entire human history of the past and the present dispensations of various spiritual movement, and the future of what kind of a society human beings would like to create in future. See, life is not only the present, nor it is the past. From the past and present will lead to a kind of future. Now we have seen what was some 5,000 years ago or 2,000, 1,000 years ago with respect to religion, spirituality, family life, the global life, and the national life of every country, and where the human life is gradually proceeding and getting converged. What is the crying need of humanity? If any movement that fulfills that, the crying need, the basic need, the real need of the mankind, that movement naturally, by the law of the nature, it will flourish because people want it. That which takes the people forward. That is why if you make a qualitative analysis of the various spiritual movement, Ramakrishna Mission is non-sectarian and its mosaic is very, very open. So it welcomes into its bosom without disturbing any other religion and any other spiritual dispensation, yet they can be a part of the Ramakrishna movement. That is the beauty of it. We do not debase people from their roots. On the contrary, we want them to understand their roots properly and separate the grain from the chaff, essential, non-essential, and find out what exactly helps each one to go forward as per the call of the human destiny, to know the truth of our being and the well-being of the society. Just many isms come and go and all that. Everything is an experiment by the human psyche on this human planet. Swamiji says, no, what is that? Spirituality is a reading of spirit into the matter. See, Swamiji is great saying, it is religion.
It's a progressive reading of matter, of spirit into matter. Progressive reading.
Progressive reading of the spirit into the matter. What a beautiful statement. We need to do a research on this. What is progressive reading of the spirit into the matter? Atmana mokshartham jagat. You just, second thing, Swamiji says that society is greatest where highest truth become practical. That society is greatest where highest truth become practical. The practice of the spirituality means search for truth. Spirituality is equivalent to search for truth. It is not an ism, or it is not something like a narrow knowledge body. It carries with it the entire humanity's progressive march towards the truth, because we are all death bound. And that which is beyond the death, and that which is before the death, and that which is inside us when the body is hanging on, all the three needs to be connected, and we need to know the truth. The human purpose of the human intellect is not to get caught in this world and enjoy the world, but ensuring the welfare of everybody, well-being of everybody. Yet we have to go for self-transcendence. When the body is hanging itself, we have to know what the ultimate reality is. That is the challenge or the call of the destiny and the call of the evolution of the human intellect. Intellect is not meant for, see, just as science is exploring the truth of the objective world, spirituality is the internal science, subjective science, which is exploring the subjective spiritual truth of the mankind or individual life. So these both have to be harmonized. So Ramakrishna mission, especially the life of Holy Trio, has many things to contribute for the well-being of the mankind and the spiritual journey of the mankind in the decades and centuries to come. This is what we are trying to say, something without comparing. And every spiritual organization is important. Let it contribute its best, and we are all co-travelers on the vast canvas of spirituality to go forward and take the humanity forward. This is what I feel we should reflect and understand with reference to this Ramakrishna movement and the global, the humanistic need of the entire humanity and truth, spirituality which is there, or whatever is the essential thing which is there in every religion, every body of knowledge, every sect is to be taken out, it is to be integrated, it is to be synthesized, essentials are to be taken in, and non-essentials are to be taken, just left behind.
Yeah. But there is one more question which says, you just mentioned that service is a kind of tapasya in the Ramakrishna order, and that it can lead to the highest goal. Yes. So does this highest goal, or the goal, intermediate goal, or the ultimate goal vary according to time and space?
See, what we should try is actually Daiva Prajna Karma Yajna. Daiva Prajna Karma Yajna means spiritual awareness is primary, which is the core of our being, which Ramakrishna calls, that alone is Vastu, that alone is real. We should have that as our central focus, and then go into the world and do our work as offering to the divine, which manifested as a world or virata. This is what is called the concept called yajna. Karma has to be transformed into offering to the divine. There is a huge cosmic forces are working, and we can only be a part of that. We should be in harmony with the cosmic yajna or the work that is happening. And we, if to the extent that we are in tune with the cosmic process, we survive, we progress. Otherwise, we regress. That is what the meaning of yajnartha karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. If you are a part of the give and take of the whole universal process, then you will go forward. If you impede the global yajna, that is the work and activity that is going on from little atom and electron movement to the cosmic, the movement of the stars and the planets and all that, and the subtler world beyond the known material world of this Milky Way and galaxy, there is a subtler world. Just as we see the sense-bound material world, beyond the senses there is an existence. Our existence is bound by the Indriya Sannikarsha Jnana. But there is a world which is beyond the human comprehension that human intellect can penetrate. We have such hidden ability within us, which is called as Chaitya Purusha. Brahmanandaji also says, deep inside us, there is a spiritual mind, a great mind, which is in the form of a bud, like a parachute in a folded form. Whenever with our spiritual practice and when expansioning our intellectual capabilities, we will be able to unfurl that inner capability of the mind and able to become a Superman and do much greater things in the world as per the call of the human destiny. This is what I think we can place before the people, a little bit of the sharing of our thinking.
I think then we'll conclude. There is one more last question, Maharaj, yes, where somebody is asking for suggestions how to solve this problem of intolerance, which is leading to conflict in the world, especially through the medium of education. When children are at school, how to preach these universal ideas in a very simple way, so that they grow up, they don't end up quarreling with each other and having intolerance in their behavior.
See, intolerance is the result of narrow, bigoted, short-term ideas infused into the children's and youth mind. It is complete something like a brainwashing the mind and limiting the mental horizons. So if you have to expand the mental horizon and intellectual expanse of an individual, he has to be taught right from the childhood the universal ideas, and he must have a questioning mind, the search for truth, wanting to know the truth, and where lies the real well-being of the human society. All these questions have to be, all these concepts have to be taught to the child. Satyam vada, dharmam chara, all those things, which has made this our culture of the Eastern culture so broad-based, not restricted to any particular anthropomorphic form, and not limiting the human mind and human possibilities. So these are the things have to be taught to the children through right education. And then only perhaps the children, when they become adult, they will have a broad-based ideas and a vast broad-based mind where they can embrace and accommodate everybody.
Maharaj, the last question, we have about 5 minutes left. Swami Satyamayananda is already there with us. But this last question is asked by somebody from America, from San Francisco. The question is about Sri Ramakrishna. Why did Swami Vivekananda say, he's quoting the exact sentence, no one before in India became a Christian, a Mohammedan, and a Vaishnava by turns. So he wants you to just comment on this statement. What did Swamiji mean that Sri Ramakrishna became a Christian? Of course, it refers to his sadhana, but what is its significance? To become a Christian, Mohammedan, and a Vaishnava in turn. I mean, by turns.
Ramakrishna did not become any Vaishnava or Christian or Muslim. His entire being was hungering to know the truth to the various path which the earlier history has shown, the religious history has shown. So he experienced the divine through the various parts of the Indian spiritual culture. Then he saw the Islam and the other Semitic religions around. They too worship God. And how do they? He had a tremendous curiosity to know God through the other path. It's like you monotonously eat a particular dish. You like to eat one more new dish which you would like to experiment and see. Similarly, he wanted to know how by following the Islamic path also one can experience God. And then he did not become a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu, that he was a seeker of truth. He was a spiritual master. And his life was totally open to know the truth through any path. He wanted to know the ultimate reality and how various human beings can, tread that path and reach that goal. And he discovered that all paths lead to the same goal, and there is a one God, and everybody is in different stages of spiritual development. And this is what they discovered. He did not become one to the other and other religion. It is not he was not putting on different coats of Vaishnava and Islam and Christianism. He was his core being was in search of truth, and he adapted Christianity to know the truth. He adapted Islam to know the truth. He adapted different sects of Hinduism or parts of Hinduism to know the truth. Truth was his goal. God was his goal. Divinity was his goal. If every religious seeker world over aspires to know the divine through their respective path, there is no religious conflict and there is no bigotry. All religions meet in the common vestibule of meditation and seeking God. When you begin to seek God, not identify the religion as a number game or a particular body of a religious organization or a religious sect. But if you use the religion and every sect as a path to know God, that is the broad-mindedness we need to inculcate in our children and the children of the entire world. All children of the world should be taught to seek God to their respective religion, to seek God through respective religion, not to use religion for any other purpose other than seeking God.
Thank you, Maharaj. You have timed it to perfection. We are exactly 5:30. You have concluded. Wonderful timing. So we thank you, Maharaj, once again for this wonderful explanation of a very important theme, the uniqueness and the spiritual glory of the Ramakrishna mission, and the fact that it is not the quantitative analysis, but it is an unfoldment of the spiritual power of Sri Ramakrishna that makes our order unique. And when it manifests itself through the successive disciples, both monastic as well as householders, how it is slowly unfolding. We had a wonderful discussion. We heard a wonderful discussion and you answered some very nice. We hope to see you again this whole year we'll be celebrating this 125th anniversary. It gives us an opportunity. Like, see, now we have Swami Satyamayananda who will represent the entire North American continent, and which had so many centers. In fact, I would not be improper to say that the Ramakrishna movement had its first center in New York, which is in the West. Later on, Belur Math Association is in first on we registered the organization on 1st May 1897. So officially, I think there was a center in America even before in 1894. Yeah.
It is very nice of you to have organized this webinar by calling the Swamijis from different countries, especially in the context of the commemoration of the Foundation Day of the Ramakrishna Order, so that the global view can be put together to understand the Ramakrishna movement. It's a very nicely organized, very thoughtful of you to have organized such a program.
Thank you, Maharaj. Pranams once again. Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I spotlighted you, Maharaj. Satyamayanji Maharaj.
Yes.
So now we come to the last session. People have been very patient. I mean, since 3:30 for 2 hours, we had wonderful discussions, and beginning with South America, then the main theme of the seminar, that is the glory, the spiritual glory and the uniqueness, and finally we'll conclude with North America. So I extend my hearty invitation to Swami Satyamayanji, who's in the Vedanta, assistant minister in the Vedanta Society of Western Washington in Seattle. So he'll be speaking, as I had announced earlier, on the Vedanta movement in North America. Of course, that includes the Ramakrishna movement as well. So Swami Satyamayanji, I'll give you a brief introduction as he has sent it to us. He joined the Ramakrishna order at Advaita Ashrama, Kolkata in 1988. As all of you know, Advaita Ashrama Mayavati is a confluence of the East and West, a dream center of Swami Vivekananda. And we will be having the concluding talk, Swami Mayavati, a confluence of the East and the West. So he was there for some time as an editor, and he joined Advaita Ashrama. Of course, he joined at the Kolkata branch of Advaita, where they have 2 branches, one in Kolkata and the other one in Mayavati. He is an initiated disciple of Srimad Swami Bhuteshanji Maharaj, who was the 12th president of the Ramakrishna order, and he served Advaita Ashrama in various capacities till 2008. In 2008, he was posted to the Probationers Training Center, Belur Math, as an Acharya, where brahmacharis are taught the scriptures and Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature and other training is given, monastic training is given for 2 years. So he was Acharya, and in 2010, he was again posted to the Advaita Ashrama Mayavati, this time as an editor of Prabuddha Bharata, a journal which is one of the oldest English journals of the Ramakrishna order, started by Swamiji himself in 1896. So in 2014, he was appointed as head of Ramakrishna Mission in Kanpur. Then he was posted as assistant minister of our Vedanta Society of Southern California, Hollywood, in December 2018. And recently, in 2022, he has been assigned duties as assistant minister in Vedanta Society of Western Washington, that is in Seattle. So he has written some wonderful books, especially one book on mind, which you should all read. And he's author of three books and has written numerous articles. There's one on, I think, stories, of Indian.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Ancient Sages.
Ancient Sages. Yeah, that's a wonderful book. We get so much of information in a nutshell. And about the mind, what is the name of that book?
Encountering the Memory Self.
Memory Self. Yes, that's a wonderful book. Yes. So he has also written, obviously, as editor of Prabuddha Bharat, he has written numerous articles for the Ramakrishna orders, many journals. So without taking much time, we would like to hear from you, Swamiji, about the Ramakrishna movement as it unfolded in North America. It's an important phase of the Ramakrishna movement. So over to you, Swami Satyamayananda.
Thank you, Swami Sarvasthanandaji, for inviting me to this webinar and giving me the topic Vedanta movement in North America. Let me start with one small quotation from Swami Vijayananda. He says, I have a message for the West, like Buddha had a message for the East. There was a time when he was reluctant to preach, though Sri Ramakrishna had said, Naren Shikka Deve, Naren will teach. And later on in his mature years, this is what he says, I have a message for the East. He was clear in his mission in this world. It was a divine mission. And as Swami Sarvasthanandaji began, it was the first center of the Ramakrishna order in New York. And then even a little after that was the San Francisco Center. So we have very old centers that have started during Swamiji's time. There are today about 16 centers in North America. That includes the US and Canada. We have about 19 sub-centers. And we have under the Ramakrishna Ashram, an organization, about 8 private centers and numerous other centers unofficial, study circles, groups. But even though the number is staggering, yet the US and Canada, they have more than 20 million square kilometers and sparsely populated. The population of Canada is just 13.7 million and the US is 327 million. It's a vast country. Most of our centers are congregated on the west and the east coast, with a few exceptions like St. Louis and Chicago in the middle. Of the west and the east are more populous, more liberal, more rich, more educated. And in the center, we have something called the huge Bible Belt. They are extremely religious and extremely fundamental. So that's the reason why in the center of America, we are so kind of scarce. We have an upcoming center in Kansas, of course, but that also is right now under St. Louis. Generally, the social situation in America today is, research has shown, sociology has shown, that there are about 7 classes of people. And the bulk of the people, the working and the middle class, form something like 84%. It's a huge number, huge. And then there are the poor people that comprise 7.3 and the ultra rich is 3.6. This growing disparity in wealth, education, health, and employment has given rise to much social unrest. Okay. Now, you've heard about reverse engineering. I'm going to do a kind of a reverse history. I'm going to speak about the current situation now and then proceed towards the roots of this foundation, this movement. And this movement, Swami here in the West have been speaking, it's not only confined to monks preaching, it's the devotees also are involved in this movement. So the social situation is extremely, extremely kind of restive. You may have read or heard about the situation, social situations in the US. It's really kind of on the boil. We have something called the Black Lives Movements, etc. So race or racism, gender identities, and also sexual identities, etc., have become activists. There was a time when it was quiet in the fringes. Now it's center stage. And this has given rise to a lot of problems in the sense of people are blaming each other, especially the government. And then there's also the police overreaction, drugs, gun laws, illegal immigration. All these things are kind of fueling this unrest. The biggest threat here today is homelessness. We have seen homeless people and shanties and slums in India. But if you see these things here in the US, it's kind of heartbreaking. Most of these homeless, I can categorically state that it is due to not only unemployment, the high cost of renting a house, but it is the problem of mental ill health. And this is raging across America. If a mental ill health patient will go to drugs, or a drug addict becomes a mental ill health patient, and as a result, everything starts spiraling downwards and this person is now homeless. It is very, very sad. And Swamiji, in one of his, in many places, he spoke about the poor in India and the poor in the US. So he has said, poverty is associated with sin. In India, it is not. It is not sin. It is a long kind of story that these people have been playing out today. So this said, there is also now a growing number of people who claim themselves as nuns. That is, they have no religious affiliations. They are called nuns, N-O-N-E-S. Apart from that, there is a huge mass, a growing, you can say, consensus on atheism, agnosticism. They are people now worried that their churches are kind of going empty. Churches are being sold. People are, the social and economic and the cultural scene today in the US does not allow you to go for a kind of a regular kind of service in the church. Okay. Another problem with religion is they are taking political sides, and that makes them parochial, tribal, and narrow. So the good people, they keep themselves away from this. Swamiji had said more than 127 years ago, he says, there is a chance of Vedanta becoming the religion of this country because of democracy. But today, democratic institutions and ideologies are more divisive than ever. It will take even a longer time for people to recognize that, yes, there is democracy and there are democratic institutions. As pure democracy, we can be one. But till that time comes, it's going to be a while. Another prediction Swamiji had also made, he says, this is the best time for Vedanta, according to me and according to many scholars. Why? Because he says this doctrine of Vedanta has always been in India. It was brought forward whenever materialism and skepticism broke down everything. So this is the age of materialism and skepticism. So we have the movement, a tremendous platform to relaunch ourselves. Vedanta in America has launched itself a couple of times, but not far enough. So this is the time, and people are materialists and skeptics. Now, what are the dangers of the Vedanta movement stagnating? We have been, in all honesty, we have been stagnating for a few decades now. Yes, decades, the movement has been stagnating. We are simply holding on. Okay. The first is the Vedanta societies in the US, they followed the Protestant style of, you can say, religious models. That is, you go and we are called ministers and pastors. We go and have a kind of a choir, and then you have a talk, and then you meet people. This was the perfect Protestant style, because Protestants are more numerous. About 70% of the people here are Protestants. About 25% are Catholics. So this Protestant style, and we used to dress up in suits and coats, just try to be a kind of a hybrid American and a preacher, kind of. So it is found that this Protestant style of operation is now passé, in the sense of Protestant churches themselves are going empty. Protestants are not following their own kind of religion, and to model something on Protestantism, Protestant model, we have suffered collateral damage. Beginning in the 1980s, when there was a huge, you can say, opening for immigrants, especially from India, and we had a lot of highly educated, highly professional people coming in, and there was a huge kind of, you can say, influx of people. It was this diaspora which is here, is extremely successful. And being Indians, they used to gravitate towards Vedanta societies. And in time, it became more like a kind of an India club. We used to speak in the Indian languages. That dropped away most of the local people. They thought it, oh my, this is another kind of a Indian thing. And we began to emphasize more on the ritualism instead of the pure kind of Vedanta. We have been also very poorly performing where the Spanish-speaking people called Latinos and the Black Americans are concerned. The South Americans, the Latinos, are extremely religious, extremely devoted, and extremely firm in their faith. We have not been able to. We have just few Spanish publications. We have just a few speakers who can communicate in Spanish. So a large chunk, a growing chunk, in fact, in California, there are now more Spanish-speaking people than the local people. And all the signs, road signs and everything are in English and in Spanish. And in many places, they are Spanish and English. So the Spanish-speaking population, that is, are growing. That has been a drawback for us. In the earlier 60s and 70s, there was a huge, you can say, social oppression. We know that it was during this time that the fight against draft of the against the Vietnam War, and then the hippie movement, a kind of a subculture. There was, during the 60s and 70s, a huge, you can say, population of people, young people, who were attracted to Vedanta. And that was because there was something called the New Ageism. Buddhism, the philosophy of yoga and tantra, this was a New Ageism, was a kind of a hodgepodge of many kind of things all around. And people were drawn to these Vedanta societies en masse. The hippie movement in the US spread all over the world, yet it has fizzled out. That those persons, the remnants are still there. They are very staunch devotees, but it's all gone. So that part, that phase is also, it rose and fell. Okay. Then in the early years, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, we had great intellectuals, professors, literary people being attracted towards Vedanta. And they formed the second tier of this Vedanta movement. Today, there's almost none. Vedanta societies can't attract these kind of intellectuals. That's because we are not interpreting things which they can relate to. And Swamiji has also is clear that Vedanta can work on the spiritual level, the intellectual level, the societal level, every level. So we have been neglecting this kind of the work on the intellectual level. And that's the reason why there's a huge kind of paucity of thinking, intellectual people, etc. Okay. Then we have a greatest problem here, that the Native American population, they have got the roots very deep into religion and mysticism. Their religion and mythology could easily have been absorbed by Vedanta. We have neglected them completely. In fact, if the Native American population would come, we would be also inheriting their ideas of a sacred mountain, sacred trees, rivers, places, worship. This would have been a kind of impetus, because in India, we have the sacred mountains, rivers and streams and valleys and temples, etc., etc. But today, because of this social discrimination, they are completely neglected. They suffer from very poor education, very ill health, and economic, you can say, pariahs here. They are somehow struggling. We should have been able to attract all those people. And then the Black American people, they have got very strong religious roots, tremendous religious roots. But right now, they are more interested in correcting the social disparities. It's extremely important. Like when I said they are fighting for this Black Lives Matter, etc. They are pushing back on many of the oppressive rules and regulations that were imposed on them, and they're voicing. So it will be some time till we can attract this vast number of African Americans here. And they do have their spiritual, you can say, growth, and they have Black churches. And I've interacted with many of them. They're extremely, extremely religious. But right now, their focus is on the social uplift of Black Americans. During this 60s, 70s, as I mentioned, there was a huge influx of many Gurujis and Babajis also. Amazingly, along with the Indian immigrants. Now, these Gurujis and Babajis, they have either passed away, or their disciples have left them. Most of their organizations are in a shambles. These are the people who are looking for some kind of spiritual anchor. Vedanta has been attracting some of them, but we are also finding it difficult to disabuse them of their kind of silly ideas of spirituality, which they had been kind of injected with. But they are searching for this. So there are n number of organizations and yoga centers in the US and Canada, of course, that there are people, but there are no spiritual leaders now. And those who had kind of succeeded those original gurus and Babajis are busy quarreling amongst themselves. Most of them who are attracted towards this International Society of Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, where they kind of sing and dance. This and that. Okay. Then we also had a similar, you can say, influx of Buddhist monks teaching Zen. And they became extremely popular. It is extremely popular because people who have a religious inclination, they want some form of spirituality. They don't want all the trappings of a personal God and rituals and hymns and this and that associated with that. They want it pure and simple, quick. And Buddhism, with its dependence on self-culture and meditation and the dismissal of a personal God, etc., was extremely, extremely attractive to them. So people went out in droves. Then a lot of people who were psychologists, in fact, a very famous psychologist, were all practicing Buddhists. They never used to acknowledge it. But today, there are real good researchers in psychology and psychiatry who say that they are practicing Buddhist. They practice meditation according to Buddhist. That's because the psychology of Buddhism is without any kind of bogeyman or extra kind of things, extraneous causes. They are kind of quite well laid out, and that's what attracted them. So these are the second class of people that we could be attracting, these. Then in California, there are more yoga centers, I had read, than in all of India. Every street corner you have some yoga center. But these yoga centers are nothing but Hatha Yoga centers. And these Hatha Yoga centers are actually, each teacher has modified practice accordingly. Like instead of Hatha Yoga, there are many institutions called Hot Yoga. You get the idea. So there are various, you can say, disparate, you can say, organizations teaching yoga. Yoga studios are become integral in American society, especially, like I said, in the West Coast and in the East Coast. So these are some of the things that are going on. Some of them, they inquire into higher aspects than just plain the physical side of yoga. And we must be able to attract such people. Okay. Now, America today is a land of immigrants. Either they are first or second or third or fourth generation. It's just 245 years old, the United States of America. Though it is around 1600s, mid-1600s, that the first immigrants from England had come. And it is a kind of a huge melting pot going on here. It is very clear. When I see these people, I said, this was the very thing that happened in India 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, and the process took thousands of years ago. We are seeing a kind of replica of what happened in India. Many different types of people and races and immigrants came in and they melded, and what we have today is the modern India and Indians. So the US is also undergoing this great melting pot. It has not crystallized. It will take a few centuries to crystallize because this melding of races takes a long time. So, and in this, we can also inject Vedanta so that it will become part of, you can say, the mainstream culture. We also have a kind of a renewed interest in Hinduism amongst people. But unfortunately, there are a lot of professors and teachers in universities especially, that they have a very negative idea of Hinduism. They associate Hinduism with fundamentalism and right-wingism. And that's why they think, oh, Hinduism associated with they are fundamentalists and they are right-wingers. So they are teaching the students and you can say college and school students accordingly. So Vedanta preachers, we must be able to go to those universities and be able to counter them. And that we'll have to understand what is the political and social situation here. It's extremely important. So we have also the idea that there are certain people, class of people here, having their roots in Judaism. They are Jews. You know, Jews always have a kind of a mystical streak in them. And that has always attracted them to this Vedanta. In all the centers you'll find some of these old devotees, they have their Jewish roots. And then also we have something called these Native Americans. We must be able to also attract them, in fact, go to them in the reservations, talk to them, and they will contribute their own spirituality to us, to Vedanta, and that will become wonderful. Now, these professors, etc., that they are teaching the students with all these kind of distorted ideas about Hinduism, most of them are, as I say, postmodernist. And this is what is kind of spreading in India. Postmodernism is nothing but old Marxism in a new bottle. Okay. And so we must be able to understand postmodernism and tackle them, because they rely on identity politics and divisions, of course. Okay. We also find that most of the Vedanta societies for the last 100 years we are operating, we have not been able to combine together in a kind of a unified. We have one center there and one center here, and that Swami there and that Swami there. They hardly interact. Occasionally, we must be able to interact on all levels so that we can provide a united front and a united message. So, and it will have a kind of an energetic effect on some of the centers which are stagnating. So if you move the Swamis around, speakers around, it will be extremely important. You see, the whole world looks towards America as a kind of an icon, as a kind of an ideal. Swamiji, when he was preaching here in the West, he was aware that if I hit one blow in America, it echoes even louder in India. In fact, India was awakened because Swamiji preached in the US. It's very clear. The whole India was aroused that, oh my God, we have one representative of Hinduism who has gone to them and preached them, and the whole nation awoke. Today, if we can really preach to Vedanta, to the United States, all the Western countries in Europe or in other parts of the world, they look towards America as a kind of a standard. It will awaken, it will find echoes also in those lands if we can really implement these ideas of Vedanta in the American soil. It will be a tremendous impact, worldwide impact. It's not only an impact on India, it's going to have now worldwide, you can say, impact. Because like Sri Ramakrishna is saying, these babus, if they have eaten that, then it's good enough for us. There are some rustic bumpkins who had gone, they couldn't identify what dish was served to them. And they said, if it's good for the babus, it's good enough for us. So this will have a kind of a domino effect on other countries also. Swamiji also is very clear that he says, whenever nations have been interconnected, whenever great conquering powers have joined nations and societies together, out has poured Indian spirituality. Saying it happened before the Persian Empire, it happened during the Persian Empire, it happened during the Greek rise, and then now with the, you can say, advent of the English, we have linked everything together. Out is flowing Indian spirituality. And every nation has its own character. Like a person, we have a particular character. Different people have different characteristics. If you put all the nations together, every nation has its own characteristics. And India's national characteristic was religion and religion alone. He's saying if you give it up, in 50 years, your back will be broken. Swamiji is very clear. So we have a duty as Indians, as Hindus, as Vedanta, to hold on to this spirituality and spread it out. In the process, you will find a kind of a new world culture emerging because of this interconnectivity everywhere. We are finding there is a kind of a universal culture that's being growing, whether that person is in South Korea, or whether in Japan or New Zealand or in France or Germany. People are beginning to think alike in a way. They are getting into a new world culture because of the interconnectivity. And this is where Vedanta will have to come in, because this new universal culture that's forming right before our eyes will need a spirituality which will be in consonance with the present as also in the future. Swamiji had always said a little materialism is good for us because India was poor and all these things. And we find, and for them a little spirituality will be good enough. So he wanted to balance both. So this pursuit of this spirituality will be integral in this modern, upcoming, new world order that is being formed right before our eyes. So the first generation of monks, they were the direct disciples. Swami Vivekananda, of course, 1893 he came. And he's telling Swami Turiyananda in, you can say, in India. You see, whatever is happening there is happening for me. The organizing of the Parliament of Religions. Okay. Then we have Swami Turiyananda, Swami Abhedananda lived for 25 years. Swami, you can see, Shardananda came, Swami Trigunatitananda came, who was the only direct disciple who laid down his body here in the US. The second generation of monks were the disciples of these disciples, and some were mother's disciples. Tremendous spirituality they had, tremendous. They held everything together and integrated things together. That was essential, because otherwise what happens, the foundations was laid by them, and they spend their entire life here, most of them. Like we have the direct disciples, mainly Swami Brahmananda's these disciples who came here, with the exception of course, Swami Asheshananda, who was Holy Mother's disciple, and Swami Nikhilananda, who was also Holy Mother's disciple. So this generation has passed. The third generation of monks that came were the disciples of those disciples. And they also, with their dynamism, they spread a lot in this country. They had a beautiful, you can say, a foundation already laid down, plus social changes with like New Ageism and Buddhism and yoga, etc., people being dissatisfied with religion. These people came together, but they have not been able to lift them on the next level. The present generation of monks have a great deal of task before them to hold on to the ancient values of Vedanta, to hold on to the values of the Vedanta movement in the US, and yet look forward and push it. So what some of our centers are doing is they are laying too much emphasis on the personal God aspect of Vedanta. This has turned away many people. And Swamiji himself was kind of accused one time, why didn't you preach Ramakrishna? Saying they already have their avatars. Why do you have to have another avatar? So we'll have to go straight to the very, you can say, traditional text and interpret them accordingly. And those who come very close to us, they can be taught about Sri Ramakrishna, etc. We also have a lot of Buddhists coming here, and we keep the pictures or statues of Buddha on our altars. Most of our altars have this Buddha. Okay. Now, we've seen Swamiji come 1893, things are prepared, he came, spoke, etc. And he spent his, you can say, the best part of his life preaching here in the US. And then, even before that, okay, first in Rameshwaram, at Vivekananda Rock, he saw Sri Ramakrishna beckoning him to cross the waters. And he wasn't sure. So he wrote to Holy Mother, and Holy Mother kind of attested to his, you can say, that vision that it is Sri Ramakrishna's will. You should travel. And that came as a kind of a, you can say, an opening for him. Even before that, he had the vision of India that was going to be glorious. He says, there she is sitting rejuvenated on a throne. None can take her down anymore, etc. So he was sure of that. Even before that, in Dwarka, before he came to the South India, in Dwarka when he was there, in that old mutt of Shankaracharya, he had the vision of a future India. When he was looking out at the Arabian Sea, he saw a bright, luminous light. So he was sure that this was going to be India. And as I said, he was going to be an instrument in the Lord's hand. Even before that, one time, Holy Mother took food for Sri Ramakrishna in his room, and she found him in Samadhi. And it was such a deep Samadhi, and she was frightened. And she started weeping. And when she started weeping, Ramlal and others, they came and said, what happened? Then she remembered, Sri Ramakrishna told her, whenever you see me in the stage, rub my feet. And that's what she was doing. And she was weeping. And then Sri Ramakrishna came out of his Bhava Samadhi. What happened? Then he saw that they were so frightened. They said, no, I'm fine. I went to the land of the white people. Their skins are so white, their hearts are so white. And I think I will go there. So, you see, the Vedanta movement started there with Sri Ramakrishna's vision of him coming to the West. And there are instances where Swami Shardananda, he goes to a place, a woman devotee in New Jersey, and he shows her the picture of Sri Ramakrishna, and she was startled. This is the person I've been looking for. This is the person I seen in my vision when I was young, and I've been searching all my life. And Sharat Maharaj says, Swami Shardananda, you see, we think that we are preaching Vedanta. It is actually Sri Ramakrishna who is doing that. And with that, I will close my presentation here and also thank Swami Sarvasthananda. We can open it out for questions if there are. So I can't hear you, Swami.
So there is one, Mr. Saxena, who says it's an amazing exposition and excellent strategic understanding. Strategy, I mean, you have discussed a lot of strategy, how things could be changed. So that's a right approach, more pragmatic, not just explaining the theory beyond what is actually happening. That's why we wanted you to speak how things are, the moment is unfolding itself. You know, it requires thinking at so many levels, not just.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it has to be worked out on various levels.
Various levels, because people are at various levels. Sri Ramakrishna had that wonderful talent of raising people from where they are. You can't just say.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So that is one, they are very happy that you have covered that, and a very strategic, your strategic understanding of the American society, or especially the Western culture in general has been appreciated. And then he says, could not agree more that the Ramakrishna mission is just the vanguard of a new spiritual movement worldwide. So deeply indebted to his other talks, especially on mantra yoga. So he must have heard you. Yes. So then one more question. Raising so many long-term questions. What can an ordinary householder do? This is a very, very, very nice question. Very pragmatic. She says, Srila Banerjee, she's from UK. What can the ordinary householder do to help you in this work? So you talk something about what role they can play. Of course, monks will do their bit.
You know, I was kind of, for the last a year or more, I was giving some practical classes on mantra yoga and meditation, etc., like Mr. Saxena has mentioned. And so it was kind of designed as a kind of a module. It's a kind of a format. And then there were questions. One question was, can we do this in person with you? One of my answers was, now you have already a kind of a format. You have it on YouTube. You learn these processes and then you implement them. You become a yoga teacher. You don't need any kind of big accreditation. She was already a yoga teacher and she wanted to kind of deepen her teachings. I said, you do it. And that's what I can also tell Srila, that Swami Sarvagatananda Ji Maharaj, who was a disciple of Swami Akhandananda Ji Maharaj, who lived for many years and worked for many years in Boston and Providence. He was a dynamo of spirituality. In one of his talks in St. Louis, he says that it's not only the responsibility of the monks, it's a responsibility of the devotees also. And that is what Ramakrishna mission is. It is a combining both these forces of ancient monasticism renewed with a social commitment and the people who are devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. It is actually every person's mission. Take it up as a mission to spread Vedanta, because you have received a lot from Vedanta and from the Ramakrishna. And it is your job, your responsibility to transmit this to others. First, try to bring into your life certain aspects of Vedanta. Try to be loving and compassionate, and people will come to you and ask you, Like here in the US, and people say, "Hey, what do you believe in?" And then I explain, "Oh, really?" So people will come to you. You don't have to literally go to them. First, transform yourself with the teachings of Vedanta, and that will help spread Vedanta more and more. The problem is now we are all living in a kind of a bubble. People come, listen to Vedanta lectures, and go back, and they are the same old people. It's like, Sri Ramakrishna says, like when you bathe an elephant, clean an elephant, and then that fellow will keep on throwing mud over him. So just before nightfall, if you clean him and put him in that kind of big kind of shed, then there's less chance of getting muddy. So we are in the process of, we are listening to Vedanta, learning Vedanta, this and that, and then we go back to the same old life. We need to change our same old life into something different, divine. Sri Ramakrishna is the incarnation of this age, is a Yuga avatar. His gospel is the gospel for this age. His message is this. And everything that he has said, if you can bring it slowly there with you, you will find a transformation. And this is how Vedanta will spread. It's not only the monks who are going to do that preaching and teaching, it is you devotees also. So we need to, in fact, I've been telling devotees here, it's your responsibility also. It's not just my responsibility. You owe your allegiance to the order, to Sri Ramakrishna. Let's see you work out some of that allegiance. Because we are giving our lives to this. There was a time when somebody asked me, do you all get paid? I said, paid? Why? I said, no, this has been the tradition of India to impart knowledge for the last 5,000-6,000 years free to sincere people. The gift of knowledge is the highest gift, Swamiji says. So the gift of spiritual knowledge. So this is what it is. So keep on. And you will find you getting better and better. Every time we need to prepare and kind of work on a kind of a talk, we become better. We become kind of more sharp. So the same thing is going to happen with you also. Srila, thank you very much.
Yes, there's one more question.
Yeah.
He says, how does the hedonistic world accept Vedanta philosophy that whatever we experience through our sense objects are unreal and the reality is deep within, beyond the body-mind complex? So this, how can the hedonistic world really accept the spirit? That's the question.
We are the least bothered for hedonistic people because we have a tremendous friend with us. You know who's a friend? Who's dismissing all the hedonistic ideas? Science. So by aligning ourselves with science, we have had this kind of tremendous relevance today. And Vedanta will be like that. It will never be distinct from science. So science is telling you what your hedonism is, a kind of a chimera, an illusion. What you're running after is nothing but a kind of a fantasy. But of course, Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vijayananda says, yes, they are the children of Virochana who take their body for the Atma. And we are the children of Indra who further, you can say, inquired. They got the same teachings from their father Prajapati. But these, the children of descendants of Virochana were satisfied with that. And most of us are like that. The body is the Atman right now. But if the hedonist, this had been dealt with hundreds of times. For the last 8,000 or 9,000 years of human society history, has anyone ever said that hedonism is bad? Hedonism is good, that we have been successful, that we have got all the pleasure in life? They have been weeping. So for 8,000 years, we have been weeping. Those who have been running after pursuing pleasure, they find everything zero. So why should we try to dissuade them? Nature, the laws of karma itself will dissuade them, will kick them out. So when you're young, you are hedonistic. When you're old, you become a little wiser with all the gray hair, and then you start croaking a little about the futility of all life. Today's modern generation, thank God, they are more perceptive. They understand that the pursuit of knowledge is much better, more satisfying than the pursuit of pleasure. Swami Vivekananda says, knowledge is the goal of man. Pleasure is not the goal of man. Pleasure and pain pass before the soul and educates it. So we'll wait for them to veer and come around to us, to Vedanta. So we don't need to go down there. They will learn their lesson. Life will teach them the lessons.
Yeah. So that was exactly a question asked by somebody, how to teach the children. But the Srila again makes a remark that everybody is trying to avoid the mud and trying to change. I'm trying to change myself, which is being repeated by everyone. Everybody says, you change yourself, everything will be okay. I mean, everything will be changed around you. But nobody has said that I can actually teach. So
Yeah.
So that is
you can.
So she would like to know the framework, what framework you have, and how it could be used by somebody who does not just want to change himself or herself, but make a difference in the children or somebody else.
Yeah. I'll tell you, on YouTube, you'll find meditation for beginners, a series of about 15 classes. Then we have meditation skills for meditators. That's about 12 or 13 classes. Go through them, extract the teachings there, teach the children to sit and meditate. Just simply saying, God dwells in your heart will not do. Teach them how to concentrate. And secondly, we have a Sunday schools, and we have here in Seattle something called the Mother's Children. Okay. We are also teaching children. And this is the best age where you can teach people when they're young. They will grow up with these ideas. They may forget it in the interim period because of their careers, but it will come back to them. So read the gospel, or if not there, then take the tales and parables of Sri Ramakrishna, take the teachings of Holy Mother, take Swamiji's, you can say, teachings, and start something. Teach them the basics. And then as you keep on teaching, you start, you can say, fine-tuning your own methods. You will find your own methods of reaching out to them.
Yeah. So before I read a nice remark somebody has made, I'll read it out to you. But before that, yes, I'll conclude with that. So thank you, Swami, for scaling the breadth and depth of the communities, big and small, that are included and have accidentally been excluded in spreading the unique and transformative life that is Vedanta. I mean, in the Vedanta movement in the West,
Yes.
we have excluded many communities, as you said.
Yes.
The original Indians who were there.
Yes.
And thank you for giving us devotees the responsibility of taking this forward. This is from Vayu Naidu, who is herself involved in teaching and teaching children the ancient values of Hinduism and the myths. As many of us are going to live longer, blessed that we break through the cynicism of ageism and spring forth with the wellspring of Vedanta from the vision of Sri Ramakrishna Swamiji and through generations of Swamis and devotees in India and its diaspora. Okay, so that is a nice conclusion. It was well received and we are very happy. You have also completed exactly on time, unlike yesterday, which went on and on and on. But today, all of them, everybody concluded exactly to the minute. We were all, Anyway,
Thank you.
but one thing I just wanted to ask you, you're talking about the children's sessions. Do you need some kind of permission or professional counselors to have a degree before they can teach children? Because in UK they are very strict.
Yes.
You
Even
need
here
to
they
have
are very
something on
strict.
child psychology. Of course, the
Yes.
courses
Yeah.
that are accepted.
Yeah.
So if they teach Vedanta, it is allowed. But
Yes. You know what? We have teachers here. I mean, volunteers, teachers. They are also professionals. They also have done these kind of courses of counseling, etc.
Yeah.
In psychology, they teach. And what we do is we go and tell them a few little stories, like say from Harishchandra or something like that, And so that is kind of really amazing.
Yeah.
So these Puranas are full of these stories. Amazing.
Yeah.
So my job is to go and just say, I'm going to tell you a story. And that's what. And they love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what Vayu also is trying to do. She uses the storytelling method to explain to the children. That's a nice skill if it is developed. Thakur himself was a great storyteller.
Oh, really?
Ramakrishna, one of the greatest storytellers.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Satyamayananda Maharaj. Hope to see
Thank you very much.
soon. Maybe a whole year we are planning some sessions so that we take this opportunity. We missed out. Swami Vivekananda came here in 1895 for the first time. So we wanted to celebrate his 125th anniversary of his visiting UK, where he said, put ideas in London.
Exactly.
And that will spread all over the world because we are still colonized. Most of the colonies, I mean, England had colonized many countries. So it was an opportunity at that time. Of course, now it can be done because of internet and all. You can, there's no effect of this political. Yeah. So anyway, so we were planning, but because of COVID, we had to postpone. So we'd like to combine now with somehow, even if it is late, we can use this opportunity. So we will be having many more sessions like this 3-day session. Tomorrow also we are having Australia, Southeast Asia is to be covered, Australia and New Zealand, Fiji. So 2 Swamis will cover that, and finally we'll end with Mayavati. Vireshanji will speak on the confluence of the East and West.
Right.
Especially Mr. and Captain and Mrs. Saviour's contribution. Of course, you could have also done a wonderful job of that. You were there. Saviors have contributed a lot. I mean, they have they sold their house to build Mayavati.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
So Mayavati owes its existence to Mother Savior. The wonderful sacrifice. These stories have to be told. How the moment unfolded. Anyway, thank you once again, and we will conclude now. Namaste.
Thank you. Jai Thakur.
Jai Thakur.